What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another episode of Just Jets. Just Jets episode 288. Excited to be here with you. Apologies for the delay on this episode, coming out a little bit later than usual, but there's a reason for it because, well, the New York Jets did not officially announce their 53-man roster until 7:50 p.m. The deadline's 4 o'clock, by the way, and lead in right into Talking Jets at 8 o'clock. Did that 8 to 10, and usually I record the podcast before Talking Jets, so I have time to edit and upload and schedule and the whole thing. So that unfortunately got pushed back, so I apologize for the delay, but I did want to go through the 53-man roster with you guys today and wanted it to be as up to date as humanly possible. Didn't want to do something before the official word came out. So hopefully you guys forgive me for that. We'll get into that. We'll answer your voicemails, but first, quick plug. I've teamed up with Swivel. This is an awesome fan engagement platform that basically turns your Chrome new tab page into a straight up Jets content hub. Every time you open a browser, boom, my latest videos, tweets, podcasts, all right there. It's free, it's fast, and honestly kind of addictive. I love it. Click the link below, check it out. Takes zero time to set up, and now anytime you open up Chrome, you'll get hit with my New York Jets content. Okay, so without further ado, here we go. Let's take a look at the Jets 53-man roster. Shout out Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7 who made this graphic. I have another beef with the New York Jets. Not only did they wait till nearly 8 o'clock to post the roster, but they posted it in a slideshow of pictures. So you had to click through pictures in alphabetical order, and there was an advertisement every 5 roster players. So it was not easy to follow along with. This is significantly easier. So thank you to Jets Talk 24/7 for doing the Lord's work as always. We'll start with the quarterback room. Really not much of a surprise here. Jets carry 2 with Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. The really only question was if Tyrod would be healthy or not for the start of the season. He is. Brady Cook waived. Expectation is that he comes back to the Jets practice squad. Totally fine with that. I think it makes a lot of sense. He was a UDFA from this year. They like him as a developmental guy, it seems, but I don't think he needs a roster spot. Running back, how the Jets structured this was very, very bizarre. They listed Andrew Beck as a running back, but as we know, Andrew Beck, fullback / tight end. The actual 4 running backs, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, Kenny Nwanu, not really a surprise for me. I know a lot of people were hoping to see Donovan Edwards make the team. I know he had a really good first game against the Packers, but honestly didn't really do anything in the Eagles and the game against the Giants. I know he got in the end zone, but his yards per attempt were very low and ended up like 3.6 yards per attempt in the preseason. Not really enough to make you stand out and make a roster, unfortunately. But Andrew Beck makes it. Glad they didn't do any roster gymnastics where he's cut, but then going to get signed back up because he's a vested veteran. He doesn't have to go through waivers, yada, yada, yada. Wide receivers, where we get our first kind of what the heck is going on here. Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, Allen Lazard, Tyler Johnson, Arian Smith. Those 5, no surprise. Unfortunately, with Allen Lazard back healthy, I figured that Brandon Smith would be the casualty he was. The big surprise was Xavier Gipson over Jamal Pritchett. Pritchett had a good camp, so did Brandon Smith, and the Jets were talking up Pritchett pretty highly after that final preseason game. But Xavier Gipson makes the team? This guy, he hasn't done anything since week 1, 2023. Awesome game-winning punt return for a touchdown. Fantastic. Has been mediocre as a returner ever since that moment. Fumbles have been an issue for Xavier Gipson as a returner. He just doesn't look comfortable back there. And I know we're arguing or getting frustrated with guy like 52 on the 53-man roster, but it's a little bit confusing. It feels like Xavier Gipson has 9 lives on this roster. He's just going to keep making the team. I would have personally kept Pritchett. I think he's a little bit more explosive. His yards after the catch ability, I think, is higher than Xavier Gipson. And as a returner, like, that's really more what it's about for me is the special teams. Because, like, yes, wide receiver 6 in an offense that's going to be extremely run heavy. How many passes is Xavier Gipson / Jamal Pritchett catching this year? single digits probably, and I'm not upset about that nearly as much as I am a punt returner, because in a punt, like, I don't know, you're going to field probably 2 to 5 punts a game. Like that's 2 to 5 plays a game. And Xavier Gipson, I just don't think has been really all that good at the job, unfortunately. Tight ends, Mason Taylor, Jeremy Ruckert, Stone Smart. No waiver wire ads as of recording early on Wednesday morning. We'll see. Mason Taylor is going to stick. Obviously, Stone Smart for his passing ability or pass catching ability should stick. Really just comes down to if the Jets like Jeremy Ruckert for their blocking role or want to go a different direction. At offensive line, I'll group together the 3 positions, tackle, guard, and center. They carry 10. In most of my projections, I think I had 9. The only one I didn't have was Marquise Hayes, who, to his credit, had a good preseason, but a little bit surprising that he made the team. I feel like if they're going to add someone, you could definitely see Hayes being one of the first guys off the roster, I would think. But no, like, complaints. These were the 9 guys plus Hayes that I thought would make the team. They wanted to carry an extra offensive lineman and make it 10, and that's their prerogative. Looking at the defensive line, also 10, 5 edges, 5 interior defensive linemen. So Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Michael Clemens, Tyler Barron, and Braden McGregor make the team. Quinnen Williams, Harrison Phillips, Jay Tufeli, Jawan Briggs, and Leonard Taylor. So some unfortunate news. Byron Cowart listed on IR. I had this wrong yesterday. I assumed incorrectly, that it was just going to be the 4-week IR, so, return designation for Cowart, but he does not have that. So what it means is his season is over. So Byron Cowart will not play for the New York Jets this year, which means that Leonard Taylor makes the team. I wanted Leonard Taylor to make it. This was kind of a pleasant surprise because I figured that he might be an odd man out after the 2 additions that they made in Phillips and Briggs. Ends up not being the case because of the Cowart injury, and also seems to explain why they were so aggressive on those trades, especially after finding out that they lost Cowart for the year. Linebacker, they carry 5. Sherwood, Williams, Mauingoa, McCurry Ball, and Zaire Barnes. Was glad to see Zaire Barnes make the team. I like Barnes. I think I said this on the Talking Jets show last night. I like Barnes a little bit more than McCurry Ball. I don't think the Jets feel that way. I think they prefer McCurry Ball over Barnes, which, again, that's personal preference, and we're talking about 4th and 5th linebackers here. But I do like Zaire Barnes. I think he's gotten better year over year since coming in here. Corner, Sauce Gardner, Brandon Stevens, Quantez Stiggers, AZ Thomas, Michael Carter at corner. I am a little surprised JBC didn't make the team. And one of the things that stand out to me, I would have, I think, kept JBC and only kept 9 offensive linemen and not had Hayes. But when you're looking at if they wanted to keep the extra offensive linemen, why I think Quantez Stiggers made the team over JBC. 1, injury history with JBC, and number 2, Quantez offers more on special teams. So that's, when you're looking at guy 48 to 53 on the roster, they got to give you something extra, and special teams play is definitely one of those things. I think they have a pretty deep corner room. I'm very impressed with it. And, we'll go to safety now. There's 4 guys: Tony Adams, Isaiah Oliver, Andre Sisco, Malachi Moore. Isaiah Oliver is going to also act as the backup slot, so he'll have a role there. Sisco and Tony Adams, I think, will start out of the gate, but I would not be surprised to see Malachi Moore come in maybe halfway through the season. We see Malachi Moore end up taking over as a starter. Special teams, Nick Folk, Austin McNamara, and Thomas Hennessy are your 3 special teams players. So there you go. Those are the 53. I think biggest surprises to me were that Marquise Hayes made it, Xavier Gipson over Jamal Pritchett, no JBC. Those are the ones that stand out. Leonard Taylor in a positive surprise way, I would also have. But overall, not too many surprises for the Jets 53. Again, we'll see if they're active on the waiver wire here up next. Let's get into your voicemails and get into some reaction. We want to get first to Liam calling in from Staten Island.
Hey, Matt. Liam from Staten Island here. Tough loss. Very Jets kind of ending, but still preseason, so again, that grain of salt. My main question for you this week is regarding penalties. Obviously, they've been an issue for us this preseason. They've been an issue for us for 10 plus years. I want to see if you think the same as I do. I'm sort of in the camp that I don't think this will continue as badly in the regular season. I think Glenn is going to put the kibosh on a lot of the foul play. But the biggest thing, too, I think it's the preseason. A lot of these guys are trying to show what they can do. They're trying a little too hard. There's too much energy. But at the same time, we've had a problem with penalties. Regular preseason doesn't really matter for a decade now. What do you kind of highlight? What do you think the main cause of that is? Do you think it has to do with bad coaching, a lack of discipline, a lack of accountability? Do you find that it's just a lack of skill, that these guys are just, you get beat on a route, you're going to hold. You miss coverage, you're more likely to, try to make up for it by taking a penalty. What is the cause of this? And how can Glenn going forward and just the rest of the team hold each other accountable? And how can we get these penalties under control? Because we can't lose games like this during the regular season.
Thank you, Liam, for the call. Yeah, so I would say I'm slightly concerned still. Like, I get it. Most of the guys that were playing in that third preseason game aren't going to actually be playing a major role in the regular season. But since this has been an issue for a few years now, it's hard not to think, here we go again. And I do think part of it is on the coaching staff. I think Glenn holding guys more accountable will eventually help in the long run, but it's not going to be an overnight thing. Habits are really hard to break, and this team has been an undisciplined football team for a few years now, and it's not just going to be, okay, overnight, the coach said, not to take penalties anymore, so we're not going to do it. At the same time, I do think the players have to take some of the blame on this. Like, you just have to know situations and when it's okay to take a penalty and when it's not. And obviously you don't want as many penalties, as humanly possible, kind of a thing. But there's situations where you feel like you could afford to take a penalty and it's not the worst thing in the world. So I think it's just a thing that's going to have to improve with time. I don't think it's any one thing. It's like, oh, well, if they do this, then the penalties will stop. I just think it's going to be a time thing. The more reps, the more times that, someone makes a mistake and they're pulled out of a game for it, they're going to learn. And it's a tough lesson. Guys don't like being taken out of games, but that should be enough to deter them from doing it in the future, you would hope. Max is calling in from New Jersey. Let's get to Max up next.
This is Max calling in from Holden, New Jersey on a wonderful Saturday afternoon. Here are some topics I want to talk about today. So I want to talk about the recap from the Jets-Eagles game. Here are my takeaways from the game. So my first takeaway is I think penalties are still a problem. The Jets had 10 penalties yesterday. We can't win games in the National Football League with 10 penalties. Like, you can't really win a game. The margin for error on this team is very thin. Number two, I think Quentin Skinner needs to make the 53-man roster. I feel like Skinner has potential. He's made a couple nice catches. And then my third point is Malachi Corley is going to get cut from this team. I think defending Corley, I said, he's going to make the 53-man roster with the punt return. I do not think Malachi Corley is making a team. On that Brady Cook interception, granted, Brady Cook made a bad pass. Malachi Corley ran a horrible route in the game. And I'm like, really? Like, Malachi Corley's not making a team. He's not even a good player at all. And there's reports he doesn't even play special teams. He doesn't deserve to make this team. Another big whiff from Douglas. I was right at the time. So Malachi Corley was a bad pick. We should have taken Brendan Rice. What's your thoughts on my takeaways? And go Jets.
Brendan Rice also got cut. So I don't know if that would have been the answer either, unfortunately. Malachi Corley, man, what a disaster of a pick that ended up turning into. One of the more frustrating things is just how braggadocious the previous regime was that they got this guy. They really liked him. They were trying to trade up for him all day, too, in the second round. They finally, at the top of the third round, I think it was the first pick of the third round, they end up finally trading up and acquiring, through the draft, Malachi Corley. And then after the draft, they leaked to Connor Hughes that they had Malachi Corley as their fourth-rated wide receiver over Brian Thomas Jr., which Brian Thomas Jr. was an absolute stud last year, and Malachi Corley had 3 catches for 16 yards. That was the first red flag. for me last year when I found out that, how their draft board looked. And I think that's a big reason why Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are no longer here is they tried to, or I think at times thought they were smarter than everyone else in the room, and it blew up in their face. Whether it was that or the Mekhi Becton over Tristan Wirfs in year one of Joe Douglas drafting, there were just a few decisions that they made. It's not just like, they took Malachi Corley and that's why they were fired. No, that's obviously not the case, but I think it's a good description of what went wrong in that era and how, frankly, how wrong they were on some of these guys. Yeah, obviously there were some hits and some pretty big ones in the draft from Joe Douglas, but there were also a lot of big misses too. And I think the high variances ended up what did them in here. I think Quentin Skinner should have made the team. It's a little frustrating that he didn't. And that would be one of my bigger surprises from this list. Travis from Ohio's next. He wants to talk 53-man roster.
Hey, Matt. It's Peter from up in the beautiful Hudson Valley on this Saturday evening after the last preseason game to call in for my thoughts on the initial 53-man roster as expected. There's going to be a lot of caveats with this because there are a few players injured that I think will make the initial 53. And then be placed on short-term IR right after that. That'll make room for some other players that we thought probably weren't going to make it. So, obviously, the three specialists, Nick Folk, Austin McNamara, Thomas Hennessy, locks for all three of those guys, had an even split on offense and defense, 25 each for the remaining spots. So, obviously, Fields and Tyrod Taylor, I think, will make it. But if Tyrod Taylor is injured, I think it'll probably be Cook and then Martinez on the practice squad. Running back, obviously, Hall and Allen, obviously Isaiah Davis and Kenny Onwu. I think what will happen is if Davis has to go on the short-term IR, then that opens up the spot for Edwards. At wide receiver, Wilson, Reynolds, Lazard, Arian Smith, Tyler Johnson. And I think Jamal Pritchett makes it. I don't see Corley or Gibson making this roster.
Gibson did, unfortunately.
Then Brandon Smith makes it. That's what I'd really like to see. At tight end, this is where it's going to get a little wonky. I think it'll be Taylor, Rucker, Stone Smart, and Beck as the fullback / tight end, so 4 there. On the offensive line, and that means Kuntz is gone. Bye! And on the offensive line, obviously, we have our 5 starters, Fashanu Simpson, Tippmann, Vera Tucker, and Membu. I think it'll be Mitchell, either Cole, LeVeo, or Xavier Newman, even though I really think LeVeo should make it. Myers, and Okorofor. Anybody else, probably to the practice squad, including maybe Carter Wong. At defensive line, obviously our 4 starters, McDonald, Phillips now, Williams, JJ. Tyler Barron should make it. Tufele, Clemens, I think will make it, obviously Briggs. And Eric Watts will be one of the other edge players. I think either Leonard Taylor or Peyton Page will be the other interior guy. And whoever doesn't goes to the practice squad. I think I got 5 linebackers, Quincy, Jamian Sherwood, and Jamin Davis, Maui Noah, and I think Jamarcus Weston will make it. Noah McCrest, Selena McCrary Ball, Zaire Barnes to the practice squad at best. At corner, of course, Sauce, Stevens, and Michael Carter, Stiggers, and Thomas. If Thomas is hurt, JBC makes it. I also have 5 safeties, Cisco and Adams, Moore, Isaiah Oliver, and Jarius Monroe making it. And I think he will because he can also play corner, which I was surprised to see during this last preseason game. So that's my 53-man roster. I will hear yours tomorrow. I didn't want to be colored by anyone else's 53-man roster prediction, so that's why I wanted to get it in now. Thank you as always, and go.
He gets cut off, but he was going to say some go Jets. Really appreciate the call, Peter. Ours were, I would say, similar, our predictions. There were some that we didn't have overlapping. Like, I don't believe I had Jalen Monroe. Jamin Davis was someone that I did have, though, and that was another one that I was surprised didn't make the team. Eric Watts didn't make it. I don't remember if you said Braden McGregor or not in yours. I don't think I had him in mine. Actually, maybe I did. I might have actually, but he makes it. Zaire Barnes makes it. I was glad to see him make it. That's one of my guys, I'll say in air quotes for depth purposes. Not that I think he's starting level caliber linebacker, but he's a depth guy that I happen to like. The big one that I think all of us were confused by was Gibson over Pritchett. I did not have that. Peter didn't have that. I don't know if really anyone predicting the 53-man roster had that. Travis from Ohio is next.
Hey, Matt.
What's up, Travis?
Happy cut down day. None of these guys are making Canton, let alone starting lineup, so we all have our heroes. The third I'm going to fall on is for LT3. Love me some Taylor. Anyway, it's all overreaction. It's still fun to do. We do it every year. Love you, buddy. Go Jets. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you, Travis. LT3 is a fan favorite. Especially after the 2 defensive tackle trades, or I mean 3 technically with Derek Nottie, but when they acquired Phillips and Briggs, I thought there was a chance that LT3 wouldn't make the team. But Connor Long, when I was live with him yesterday, brought up a really good point. Leonard Taylor's probably their second best pass rushing defensive tackle. I know Tufele kind of had that huge game in week 1 of the preseason, didn't do a lot after that. But I think we forget what Leonard Taylor did in the preseason last year and in flashes during the regular season when it counts last year. So I'm happy that he made it. I think he gives them, some pass rush juice on the interior. And I also think he has the most upside out of, any of those other guys who could have made it over him instead. We close with Jake from Jersey.
Hey, what's up, Matt? Jake from Jersey. I'm sure I'm probably not going to make the show this week. I'm calling in Tuesday at like 8:50 at night. I just can't believe that they kept Xavier Gibson over Pritchett. I'm not saying like Pritchett's the next fucking... Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
The next, you say like Darren Sproles. Or regardless, he does look very explosive. Like, making those guys miss, you could see how fast his feet move. Like Ocho always says, what's he say? Like, you need quick feet. Like, I can't think of the saying right now. I'm on the spot. But regardless, man, I can't believe they kept Gibson. Like, what did Gibson do to earn that spot? Like, I don't remember anything that Gibson did in preseason. Last season, he really didn't do anything, especially as a returner. I can't believe it. I'm not trying to get, all wound up about just a preseason, guy, but it's just one of those moves. It feels like this is a move that the old regime would make, but I can't be too mad about it. But that's the only one really. I mean, I like Skinner too. I wish he would have made it over Lazard, but I see why they kept a veteran over a UDFA. But still, like, even both of those guys really could have made it, Skinner and Pritchett. But I really am bummed that Pritchett didn't make it. I'm sure he'll make the practice squad, but then how are you getting on the 53 at that point? He can. I'm not saying can't, but I'm just saying it's just a tougher path. I wish he would have made the initial roster, but that's my spiel on it. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you think, what Gibson had done to stay over Pritchett. But, yeah, man, let me know your thoughts. Go Jets.
I wish I had an answer for you, or could point to, Xavier Gibson did this and Pritchett didn't. The only thing that I could say, and I think this is not a good reasoning, right? And I would, on my 53-man roster prediction, on every single one I did, I had Pritchett over Gibson. I did not have Gibson making any of my teams in my 53-man roster predictions. Is experience. He's done it for 2 years in the league, where Jamal Pritchett hasn't done it yet. It's a shitty answer, but that's the only thing that I could think of, is that they wanted the guy with the experience, even though the guy with the experience, I personally don't think is as good as Jamal Pritchett. But again, not enough to go absolutely bananas over. I think it's frustrating, a little frustrating and a little annoying, but I don't think it's anything that we need to lose sleep over, and it doesn't change like it shouldn't change anyone's win prediction total, where it's like, oh, if they kept Pritchett over Gibson, they would win 10 games instead of 5. Like, it's not going to have that much of a swing for these guys that we're arguing about, but I get it. Like, we all have our players that we want to see make it. And for me, Pritchett was one of those guys. After he was signed as a UDFA, I made a video saying why I think he's going to make the team. And I thought I was going to be right on that, but I can't victory lap it because clearly I was not right on that one because they kept Xavier Gibson instead. Oh, well. Guys, thanks again for tuning in. Make sure to check out the swivel link down below as the pinned comment. Also, apologies again for the late episode, but wanted to get our initial reaction here to the 53 on the pod. So thank you so much. I'm Matt, and I'll catch you next time.